Hello lads, ladies, gents, ladetts, whoever, whatever, welcome back to another video. If you are old and on the internet like myself, odds are at least at one point or another you have come across Neopets, an online-based virtual pet raising game where you take part in a series of mini-games and many other activities to earn the game's currency in order to buy things for your pets and look after them. There is a lot more going on with Neopets than what I've just said, but considering I haven't played it outside of getting some quick footage for at least 20 years, I'm not the best person to speak on it. However, I do bring this game up because recently Neopets released their Mega Mini Games collection, in which I was sent a copy for free for PlayStation 5 with the intention of doing this review. Now, it'll be no surprise given the fact that the game is called Neopets Mega Mini Game Collection The Neopian Arcade Odyssey, say that 6 times fast, but this game consists of Neopets and their mini games. A fair few actually, with there being 26 in total and a hidden one that you get at the end. Now, I'm going to give a brief overview of each, but don't expect a deep dive into every single minigame because that would take forever. But before doing that, I do want to mention that we have a story mode, an arcade mode, and something that might make it a little bit more bearable for those on the fence about this, the ability to link this game with your NeoPass, or basically your Neopet account. This means you can earn points for the online game while playing this, and that's quite nice. Initially, you will need to play through the story mode before you can jump into arcade and pick out specific minigames, but thankfully this won't take too long. I spent about 2 to 3 hours all up on my initial playthrough going through the story mode, but that did have me replaying a few minigames because some of them I do really enjoy. Story-wise, there isn't a hell of a lot going on, as it follows Nyx, I think that's how it's pronounced, as she partakes in a festival against and Abigail to earn tokens. Essentially a mini Olympic Games type of deal. There are little bits of story throughout, but clearly it's not the main focus, and you're not really going to get a ton of Neopets lore here from what I've gathered. Finally, it's time for the mini games. As I'm going to go through, I'm going to give them a quick ranking out of 10 just for fun. First off, in Neopia Central, we have Jumping Gem Heist. Initially, I was very confused trying this out. Why? Because I didn't read the instructions and hoped for the best. The goal has you trying to knock gems out of the moving baskets, which is done by using a stone that we throw. Simple enough. However, I didn't realize you have to actually catch the stone that you throw. If you don't, you get knocked down. You also have to dodge meteors that are going to fall down from the sky that you do get a warning about. Score as many points as you can within the time limit, and that's pretty much it. I give it a solid 7 out of 10 once I understood what I was doing. Next up is Spinnacles. Now, this is pretty similar to another minigame that we will get to later, but honestly, I much preferred this version. It's effectively Puzzle Bobble, or, as most of us know it, Bust a Move. However, here there is a little spinning ball in the center, so whenever you hit things, it starts to turn and rotate. So it makes it more than just pairing the colors and making them disappear in order to clear the screen. So it does get pretty challenging, but overall, I would say this is my favorite from the first area of the game. I give it a solid 8 out of 10. For the last minigame in Neopia Central, we have Usaki Frenzy. I hope I pronounced that correctly. A game where we run around a house attempting to find different items, and functionally it's fine, but I don't know, there's something about how this controls that I'm not the biggest fan of. Also, all the items seem to remain in the same location and never move, so it made it a little bit too easy and repetitive even for a minigame. With that said, I'd probably give it a 3 out of 10. After completing those 3 minigames, we move into Merrydale, where we get to start off with a classic style of flash game with Cass Basher, a game where you aim to hit a plushie as far as you possibly can. Pretty straightforward, but it's always a fun one to play, and you can easily find yourself playing a couple dozen attempts without even thinking. Also, honestly, this is one of the best games to play with someone next to you, taking turns for the highest score possible. A solid 7.5 out of 10. Following up, we have an auto runner. Well, roller with Termac Roll, a game where you try to collect as many berries as possible within the time limit. Simplistic on paper, but oddly addicting, as it reminds me of Excite Bike on the NES, especially when you go over the jumps because you need to time your jump at the top of the ramp to get the biggest speed boost. I would have liked a little bit more variation with the hazards to avoid on the ground to make it a little more engaging, but overall it's pretty decent. I still think it's worthy of a 6.5 out of 10. Next up, we take aim in Ultimate Bullseye, another flash game staple, as we have to take aim with our turret trying to hit as many targets as possible within 20 shots. Basically, think of it like the tank flash game, which is a simplified version of Worms. But instead of enemies, we just happen to have targets. Although I enjoyed it, I think it could have used a couple more elements overall. Yes, the balloon is nice and the moving targets are cool, but it just needs something else. Overall, 6 out of 10. Wrapping up Mirador, we have Extreme Herder, a game where we have to save a bunch of cute Neopets from the aptly named Balthazars, trying to eat them. This is done by running around collecting the Neopets and bringing them back to the center pen. There are also power-ups available that can be used to stop the Balthazars, as sometimes they can spawn in a very unfair position. Ultimately, it's a lot of fun, and it's a very simple concept that's executed pretty well. I give this a solid 7 out of 10. As we progress, we move into the oddly cute looking Terra Mountain. Snow Muncher is our first of the 3 new mini-games that we get to play, and it has us reaching the bottom before time runs out. This is done by eating groups of colored blocks together to try and clear a path down while avoiding ones above falling down on you. It's probably the most challenging minigame up to this point, and it provides a nice change of pace from what's been somewhat mindless gameplay up to this point. There is a bit of luck involved, to be fair, but overall I think it's one of the better balanced games throughout. I give it a 7 out of 10. Following up with the snow themes, we move into the Ice Cream Machine, a game about dodging ice cream that comes up from the bottom of the screen. Honestly, I wasn't really a fan of this because it felt somewhat counterintuitive to what I was expecting, mainly because you'll see it say strawberry and I would think, oh, I have to collect the strawberry ice cream, not so much just dodge everything. It's perfectly functional, but I think this is a game that would play a lot better on PC than on console when you're playing with a controller. Taking that into account, I'll give it a 5 out of 10. It's not horrible, just not my favorite by far. Rounding out our trio of snow-based minigames, we have Snowball Fight, an ammo-based battle in the snow where we have to charge our shots correctly in order to hit our targets. Charge too little or too much, and you will miss. This is by far the best of the snow-themed minigames in my book, as it's not only a fair skill-based challenge, but you can earn more ammo by hitting the harder targets, making it more rewarding. Overall, it gives the best feedback loop out of any of the minigames to date. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Going from the snow to lava, we now jump to Krellador to play Moon Rock Rampage, a top-down action puzzle game that sees you avoiding monsters while trying to collect all the different ship parts that are scattered around each level. It's probably the most full game-like minigame within the collection, and it does feel like something you could have got back on the NES or even Game Boy. With that said though, it doesn't feel super smooth compared to games I think it's trying to imitate, so I have to give it about a 6.5 out of 10. After collecting all those spaceship parts, we go to Virtupet's space station to play Nova Defender, a twin-stick bullet hell-ish type game. I say that because it never really gets too overwhelming, at least for that genre. It's pretty straightforward and plays how you would expect, and honestly it has the polish that I wish Moonrock Rampage had. It just feels very smooth to play. I could easily see myself putting in a lot of time trying to beat my high scores. 8 out of 10. Returning from our visit with the stars, we jump back into Neopets Central, where we get into the most puzzle-like puzzle game on offer, Meepit Juice Break. Essentially the Bioshock 1 hacking minigame, where we need to guide the juice to the Meepets at the other end in a tree. The Meepets have a timer as well, so you can't just sit on your hands and hope for the best. It creates a pretty fun but somewhat stressful gameplay loop as you get further in, and I will say it makes it one of the better minigames overall. Another 8 out of 10. Continuing on, we jump into Meerkat Chase. I feel like I'm not pronouncing that right, but aka the greatest mobile game ever created, Snake. I sucked at it as a child and I still suck as an adult. 7 out of 10. Wrapping up Neopets Central, we have Spell Seeker, a game about matching either magic symbols or numbers in a chain of at least 3 following the logic that you have to find. And it makes it kind of have a game within a game. By this I mean you might have to go by odd numbers or even numbers or just in sequence. It's pretty fun, but in saying that, there might just be something wrong with me. Anyway, once you get the hang of it, it's pretty straightforward. It never really changes from what it is, and I think it could have gone one step further to keep things a little more engaging. But with that said, it is without a doubt one of my absolute favorites so far, so it gets an 8.5 out of 10. Sadly, it's not all positives as we move to Quark Island to play Doubloon Disaster, one of my least favourite minigames. It's another twin-stick shooter style game, however instead of going forward, you go backwards to the direction you input, while dodging mines while you're trying to collect doubloons. Look, it's fine enough, but I think I just didn't click with it. So with that said, I'm not going to write it off completely, but I will just give it a 5 out of 10. Thankfully though, that area is one and done as we get to move into the Lost Desert, which has my favourite, while most simultaneously hated game, Pyramids. A solitaire style game where we need to have either a card of one value higher or lower than the card in the top right corner. trying to clear out everything. It's a mix of skill and a ridiculous amount of luck if you want to clear out everything. I've only managed it one time and I'm glad I caught it on film. This is the game that I've put the most time into and I keep going back to. It is ridiculously addictive. 9 out of 10. Finishing up the Lost Desert, we have Sutek's Tomb, a match 3 style game like Bejeweled, where we have to score as many points as we can while battling against the sands of time. Functionally, it's pretty much what you would expect. It doesn't really do anything incredible, and it does feel a little flat compared to some of those other match 3 games that exist like Bejeweled. So with that said, I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. Recovering from the harsh desert, we move into Fairyland with a single minigame, Fairy Bubbles, which is pretty much the same as Spinnacles, which is what I was talking about much earlier in this video. It's a much more traditional version of Bust a Move where we match the coloured bubbles in order to clear out the screen. I don't mind it, but I do think Spinnacles is just outright better in every way, as this is just not as fun or as engaging, so I give it a 6 out of 10. Jumping out of Fairyland into Tyrannia, we get into another one and done with Destructo Match, a minigame where you click on a group of rocks the same colour, making them disappear, all the while trying to make as big a combo as you can to hit the score requirement before you move to the next level. Once you're out of possible moves, you either move on or you fail. And although this is among my favourites, I do want to mention this is the only minigame where I ran into a bug where I could no longer select anything but the round refused to end. I tried clicking everywhere and it just did not want to work, forcing me to close the game and play again. It's simple, it's addictive. That one bug I think might have just been a one-time thing. I gotta give it an 8.5 out of 10. As we start to come to the last handful of minigames, we jump into Mystery Island to play Hassy Bounce, a game that I am absolutely dog turd at. Simple in concept, we time our jump to vault the other Hassy into the air, attempting to collect fruits and score as many points as we can. Very straightforward, but for the life of me, I just could not do it correctly. I kept missing by the smallest amount. Eventually I started to get kind of the hang of it, but I never really clicked with it. I'm not going to punish the game too much for that. I will give it a 6.5 out of 10, but yeah, I definitely don't see myself coming back to this one. Wrapping up things on Mystery Island, we have Gadgad's Game, a strange take on Dr. Mario, or at least something along those lines. We match fruits up until we destroy them using a bomb, and they will destroy anything that is the same as long as they're touching. It's a game I get on paper, and I should love it. I adore these style of games. I love Tetris, I love Dr. Mario. There's something about how this game controls and just functions that I just could not get. Honestly, I found it kind of disappointing. It's not the worst game I've ever played by any means, but I do have to mark it down, so it is a 5.5 out of 10. Moving from Mystery Island to Maracua, I've probably mispronounced that, as I have with a million things, we play Jubble Bubble, a game that I would describe only as the underwater version of Snowball Fight, though instead of hitting targets to take them out, here we're trying to save them from hitting the ground too hard by putting them in a bubble. However, since we're underwater, that doesn't really make a lot of sense from a physics standpoint, but hey, the turtle's cute as hell, so 7 out of 10. With only 2 mini games remaining, excluding the hidden one, we go to Shenku to play the absolute classic Kujong. Who are we kidding? It's Mahjong. It's the matching game. Since I haven't played this in a while, I was a little rusty at first, but after rereading the tutorial, it all clicked again and I remembered how damn fun and relaxing this game is. There's not much to it, it is just a matter of matching tiles. In its simplicity, it is brilliant, so it earns an easy 9 out of 10. Finally, we reach Jelly World, where we get to play Bouncy Supreme, a physics-based platforming game. You need to determine your launch angle and the amount of power in order to get to the next platform, otherwise you will fall into lava. I'm not very good at this game, but I do like the concept, and as a way to finish off the mainline minigames, it's solid enough. 7 out of 10. So what's the hidden minigame? Well, we take to the Starlight stage to play Starlight Symphony, a rhythm game where we play songs from the game like you would in Guitar Hero or something of that nature. Honestly, it's really well done. I just wish I could have had more songs to play, as it's a really good attempt at a game that is this style being played on a traditional controller. I will say it's a really well done final game to play, as well as it's arguably the most challenging, at least when it comes to dexterity while playing. So I gotta give it a solid 8 out of 10. So that is all the minigames within Neopets Mega Minigames Collection, the Neopian Arcade Odyssey. And it's pretty good. I actually quite enjoyed my time with this, and there are definitely some mini games I can see myself just playing when I have 5 minutes here or there. However, there is one major glaring issue, and that is the fact that you can play a lot of these mini games for free already. So why would you spend money on this? Well, to boil down an incredibly complex topic into something simplistic, effectively it's to try and make money and bring people back into Neopets. A lot of people will see this and go, oh, I haven't played that for quite a while, and they might go back and check it out. Buying the game also helps support Neopets. Now, if you're a hardcore fan, you might not necessarily have a reason to get this, but as someone who's a casual fan, I was definitely very interested when I saw this pop up on Steam. If I am being honest though, I do think they are overcharging. It's 25 USD or about 36.50 Australian. That's a lot. Now again, I did receive this for free and I am very thankful for that, but I do think they're overcharging for what they have here. So hopefully they'll lower the price and make it a little bit more bearable. Again, I get it's to help try and bring support in for Neopets, but I think you're asking a little too much for what you are giving. So with that, lads, ladies, gents, ladetts, whoever, whatever, it brings us to the end of this look at the minigame collection. I enjoyed my time with the minigame collection. As I said, I will probably continue to play it going forward, mainly because I really like pyramids. It is stupidly addictive. It's got kind of a Balatro type thing going on for my brain. So yeah, definitely going to play a fair bit more of it as time goes on. If you still play Neopets, let me know in the comment section below, and let me know if you want me to check out the PS2 game. I definitely want to do it at some point, but if people are interested in me doing it sooner rather than later, I will try to prioritize it. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like. If you want to go that extra step, you can hit the subscribe button, and if you want to go that extra mile, you can support me on Ko-fi, Patreon, or YouTube memberships like these lovely people here. And if you want to support me while getting yourself something in return, you can support me through my link down below for Green Man Gaming. With that out of the way, I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay safe out there,